What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Table That Discussion here on Fantasy Alarm TV. I'm your host, Howard Bender, and yes, my usual Wednesday crew. Here we go. Adam Ronis, Jen Piacenti, Justin Fenceman, and yeah, that guy sitting there in Gillette Stadium, Patriots homer extraordinaire, managing editor, John Impemba. Well, listen, guys. Yesterday we all took part in the Fantasy Alarm Roundtable on Sirius XM. Thought it was a great time. First of all, let me ask you, how is everybody doing today? Everybody good?
Everyone good here.
Everybody's good. Yeah.
Excellent.
Great.
Excellent. Adam?
Sure.
Just mediocre? What's the matter, Adam?
I don't know, man. Just one of those days, that's all.
Did you video chat with a girl with a flat booty yesterday? Is that what's got you down?
Nah, that usually doesn't happen.
He's too
listened to
scared.
the show last
He
night.
has a filter for that.
All right. Well, poor Adam's doing all mediocre, but that's okay. We'll fix him. We'll get him right. He'll get his jabs in here. We got lots to talk about. Now, yesterday we did the this roundtable on Sirius XM Fantasy to rave reviews from everybody. But one of the things that we've kind of talked about is how much sniping went on. It was Ronis versus Fensty. Then it was Ronis versus me versus John, Jen versus everybody.
I know. I was so mean. I'm really not like that, you guys.
Yes, she is. 100%. 100% she is. But nevertheless, just to show everybody out there that we are one big happy family, as we do say, I have demanded that each one of our panelists today say something nice about one of their fellow panelists. Doesn't have to be me, and doesn't have to be Matt Sells, our producer, so we'll take those off the table, because I know everybody's going to be like, Matt Sells, what a great producer, and not compliment each other. Yeah, exactly. So why don't I start it off here I'll start off with Jen. We'll go ladies first. Why? Because she was so catty yesterday.
I was so catty to everybody. And so therefore I'm going to overachieve and talk about every single one of you guys. John Impemba always has a good attitude. He's always positive. Anytime I'm like, hey, John, what do you think about this idea? He's like, great, let's do it. I love that about him. Plus he has great food takes. Justin Finsterman is the first person I ever was on a radio show with. He has encouraged me the entire time. He's so much fun. I look forward to our 2 hours on Friday every week. Some of my favorite time of the week. And Adam's kind of become like my live stream buddy here. Like I feel like bonded with him because I've known him the longest. So, I love Adam. I think he's smart and cool. And I'm going to talk about you anyway, Howard, because you can't stop me because I have the floor. And Howard Bender always makes things fun, no matter what. And he is the glue that keeps us together. And Howard believes in all of us. Okay, I broke the rules.
There you go. Well, right. The inability to follow simple instructions. Jen Piacenti, everybody. Well, we thank you all for that. No, you guys don't have to all overachieve here. I just want something nice about somebody else. John, don't shake your head like that. Now it's your turn.
I'm just saying I'm not going to overachieve. I'm going to go ahead. I'm actually going to focus this on Fensty. I know yesterday he called himself a 13th seed in life, but he was one of the first people to give me a voice on radio, going on his morning show on XM. He brings a ton of energy to everything that he does. Even if you're kind of slacking a little bit, he kind of picks you up, makes the show lively, interesting. And the podcasts that him and I have done, whether it be basketball, family times, everything has always been a great time. So for me, just having Fensty there really brightens up everything.
See, that brightens up
Appreciate
everything.
you, man.
Looking sharp and purple there, Fensty, or is that considered lilac? Which one?
Hey, I know it's your favorite, baby. Purple.
Making your eyes pop there. All right, Fensty, go ahead.
All right,
We'll make Adam sweat this one out.
All right. Well, Howard, I'm just going to say one thing. You give incredible hugs. Just at the Fish Show, when I gave you that hug, it felt like a true friend type of incredible purple teddy bear hug. So you're like the Barney of my life.
Howard gives hugs?
So John Impemba.
I never got a hug.
Well, we haven't met yet, Jen, in person. Tout Wars was kind of taken away from us. So, John and Pemba, you were always very helpful. I know I can ask you some stupid questions about Google Drive, and you probably are rolling your eyes every time, but you're very patient with me, and I really appreciate that. I know I'm not the most advanced from a technology standpoint. Jen, you're very easy to talk to, whether it's about the show or about anything going on, personal stuff. So I appreciate you always being there and showing your enthusiasm for the shows and just caring about me as a radio host, but also as a friend as well. We are definitely co-people. And for you, Adam Ronis, I got to say, man, like I really respect your competitive drive. I know I give you a lot of crap, but you have an awesome competitive drive about you. Just like Michael Jordan, I truly believe that you have a competition problem, and that's a good thing. And so do I, and that's why we work well together.
All right, another overachiever there, Fensty making the rounds. Adam, go ahead. The floor is yours.
You know, when Justin Fensterman said he was a 13th seed yesterday, I felt bad because it's not true. He's a 12th seed. So, no, I'm just kidding. I was actually going to say something about everyone too, but since that's already been done, I won't. But I'll go at Justin Fensterman. You know, he's just driven to make sure everything we do is really good, and I think sometimes he puts too much pressure on himself. And I've tried to make it easier for him, but he wants to make everything we do, every show, everything we do great, and so he just really puts in the time and effort. For sure. So, you know, I give him a lot of credit because I've always said this. And, you know, one of the biggest reasons I came to Fantasy Alarm is to work with good people. And that's Howard is a big reason for that. And, you know, I never really worked with him closely. And we always battled back and forth on Twitter and social media. And it was all in fun. But, you know, working for him and just how easy it's been was one of the big reasons I came here. And all the people that are associated from, you know, Al Williams, Rick Wolfman, and Colton. And it trickles down to the rest of the staff. Obviously, Jen mentioned it. I've known Jen before I came here. We used to do some television shows together. John is the guy that I know the least, but we did do some live streams and everything. And echo what Jen said, very easy to work with. But, you know, the bottom line is here, all really good people, and we have a good time. And even though we are taking verbal jabs at each other, we know it's all in fun. And that's the key. There's a lot of sensitive people that I've worked with over the years that, you know, can dish it out and they can't take it. And yeah, we go at each other, but it's all in fun because we come back the next day and we do it. And, you know, that's the one thing too about Justin as well. I've tried to loosen him up on the show because I know this. No, I know this myself. When I first started Sirius XM on the radio, my first few months were terrible because I didn't allow my personality to come out. I was so worried about what I was saying, what I was delivering, getting the stats right. And it takes some time. And obviously, Justin has the background in radio as a producer, but it's different when you get that opportunity to host on air. You put a lot of pressure on yourself. So I've just tried to, you know, go at him and joke around to get him comfortable.
And you know what? I completely agree. I went back and listened to my first few shows. Not even just the Sunday night ones were always kind of easy because it was Sunday night, and I figured there were like two people listening anyway. But once it was like prime time, and it was me and me and Raph and me and Jim Bowden and me and Dave Loughran doing that, I listened to those shows and I was like, wow, I do suck. So hopefully I've gotten a little bit better over the years. Nevertheless, we are one big happy family. We do all very much respect each other, and I think we all do.
Now get out the boxing gloves. Let's go.
Let's do it. Now here we go. Come on. Let's butt heads. Let's start off. Well, let's start off with yesterday's most cantankerous person on the round table. The always catty. Go Horned Frogs. Jen Piacenti. So Jen. Claws were fully out yesterday. And not only were they fully out yesterday during the round table, but even afterwards on Twitter. Like you were like, I haven't even had enough of this argument yet. So we're going to lead it off talking about pass catching running backs. It basically came down to us all crapping on Duke Johnson when John and Pemba and I were talking about how we were looking for David Johnson to have himself a strong season this year on the underrated side. People crapping on him. Well, then we just start dishing it out on Duke Johnson. Jen, you set up a poll yesterday on Twitter. Who would you rather take in a draft? Would it be Duke Johnson or Nyheim Hines, who Frank Reich turned around and said that maybe he could see a game where Nyheim Hines was going to have 10 catches. Now, he didn't say several games. He just said a game.
A game.
A game. But then that bodes the question here of when you're dealing with your drafts, would you rather take Nyheim Hines or Duke Johnson? Jen, how did the I know you're voting for Duke Johnson. How did this poll finish out?
Let me see. It's not quite over yet. I'm going to check right now. It was like 52-48 last I checked.
In favor
of Duke. And Adam and I talked about this yesterday. We both believe that Duke Johnson is the fairly obvious answer. And if you look at the stats, I can go over them. It's the fairly obvious answer. Let's see. The actual poll right now has 54% Duke Johnson, 46% Nyheim.
And if you asked this a week ago or before the Nyheim Hines news came out, it would have been more lopsided.
Even more.
Recency bias. They hear the quote from the coach, and then that probably influenced some of the Nyheim Hines voting.
Which is actually part of the point of the poll, is to, like what Adam was saying yesterday, is we put too much stock sometimes in these quotes we get from coaches. They're out there doing interviews. They're saying things that you can't just put all your stock into. Nyheim Hines. Nyheim Hines is going to be behind Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. And you think that the addition of Phillip Rivers suddenly makes Nyheim Hines fantasy relevant? Probably not at all. And if Nyheim Hines is fantasy relevant, then certainly Duke Johnson is, who had more targets, more yards, averaged more, yards per carry, all of those things last year. And he's now behind someone that's injury prone in David Johnson.
Again, there's that injury prone tag that I just can't buy into. The guy missed 3 games over the last 2 years for injury. So I don't see it.
But he missed
almost the whole year the year before.
Yeah.
No, in 2017 when he broke his wrist.
Right, but he missed the whole year.
That was a fluke injury. You can't tell me that you look at a guy, if somebody, all right, so.
He had a back and a hammy last year, and he's 28. So it gets better as you get older? You're going to get healthier? Show me those running backs that get healthier as they get older in the NFL.
I'm just not going to label this dude injury prone yet, and I'm not going to look at last year as being given a full opportunity to do anything anyway.
He didn't get an opportunity. He was the starter going into the year.
He was the starter going into the year, and that lasted for what, like half a game when Kingsbury started floating in Chase Edmonds the entire time. It was Chase Edmonds, and then I think they had DJ Foster in there also, who was taking a couple of reps early.
So if he was so good, then how did he get outperformed by Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake?
I'm not saying that he was so good. I'm saying that now he gets a brand new opportunity as the featured back in an offense that's more suitable for him. There's a big difference there.
Even with the featured back in Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson had better numbers, better stats, more targets, more opportunities than Nyheim Hines when he was only really behind Marlon Mack. And now you've got Jonathan Taylor in the equation, and we're going to believe that suddenly Nyheim Hines is more fantasy relevant because Phillip Rivers is throwing to him and he made a star out of Austin Eckler. Not buying.
See, that's the big point that wasn't addressed yesterday. When you're looking at these running backs in the double-digit rounds, who has the pathway to a bigger workload? Because we all know fantasy is opportunity. Hines has got 2 guys in front of him. If you want to say maybe he surpasses Mack, fine. But they just, again, if you're going to take the comments that these coaches say, they said just a week ago it was 1-1A with Mack and Taylor. So he's got 2 guys in front of him. Duke only has David Johnson, and Duke's still going to get an opportunity. He's a good pass-catching back. You can't tell me Duke Johnson sucks, because I'm going to ask you this now. Who had the better fantasy year last year, Duke Johnson or Carlos Hyde? Who was it?
I don't know. Who did, Adam?
They both averaged 9.6 points per game in PPR formats, even with Carlos Hyde getting a way bigger workload. Duke Johnson's not a bad football player. He hasn't gotten the opportunity now with 2 coaching regimes. The Texans are idiots. They traded a 3rd-round pick for him. When you see that, you would say, all right, he's going to get an opportunity. And then they bring in Carlos Hyde, who is better than many people thought. But Duke Johnson's a good football player. He hasn't been given the opportunity that he should get, but he excels at catching passes out of the backfield. I mean, he had 1 year in Cleveland. He had over 70 receptions. So you can't say Duke Johnson's not a good football player. He is. One
of the things, and we'll float to Fensty and John, who can jump in on this as well. One of the things that I've always preached and talked about, and this goes back a number of years, is looking at the system in which the players are playing in. Looking at the coach, looking at what the play calling is, what the personnel schemes are, and how a player is utilized. And that's one of the reasons why I look at the NFL and I say, you can go back and you can look at what last year's numbers were. However, you have to take into more into consideration. Is it a new offense? Is it a new coach? Is it a new offensive coordinator? What's the personnel scheme going to be like? What changes did they make midway through last year that worked and didn't work? So, looking at year-to-year numbers and telling me that Duke Johnson had a better year than Nyheim Hines last year, that doesn't
the argument.
It just doesn't do much for me. It really doesn't, because now you're talking about a different running back in Carlos Hyde versus David Johnson, who's going to be in front of him right now. I mean, Carlos Hyde was on 4 teams in 3 years. Obviously, there's an issue with him. Before we jump in there, let's hear from John and from Fensty. John, we'll start with you. You were a big proponent of David Johnson yesterday. Talk to me here. I know the Nyheim Hines versus Duke Johnson is a little bit of a stretch because, like Adam pointed out, it is deeper in the in the depth chart there for him. But the question is how different are these guys?
I mean, I would still take Duke Johnson. I think that he's a better overall player. Again, that's not really a debate that we're having with each other. I think everybody here would consider that to be true. And we are looking at the depth of the roster as well, where there's clearer role for Duke to have the opportunity to play over Hines, who has the depth behind in front of him, as we mentioned before. So in terms of the poll, I'm taking Duke Johnson just as it is. I think he can give you better fantasy upside. I just want to continue to go back to this David Johnson thing that we're discussing here. We mentioned yesterday he had that Giants game where he had one snap because he was injured. Before that, he was averaging 100 yards per game total and 5 catches. So it's not like he was a completely useless player in that offense before the injuries happened. It's then he got hurt. He came back. They found better players that maybe fit into that system more. They traded for Kenyon Drake. They had Chase Edmonds. And after that game, he didn't see more than 5 single carries in a single game the rest of the way. But before that, he was a pretty active member of the team, and he was effective in the passing game. He had 315 yards receiving through 6 games on the season. It was just after the fact he got hurt, and they kind of considered him an afterthought. It's not like he was a completely ineffective member of that offense beforehand. Things didn't work out in the second half of the year after that he got hurt. So, again, kind of harkening back to that, I still think there's value here in David Johnson. You mentioned 2018 is down year. We didn't bring it up yesterday on the show, but I went back and looked. He still finished the year as a top 10 PPR running back, even in a down year. Really, he had less than 4 yards per carry, but his 1,400 total yards and 10 touchdowns still put him up there as a top 10 fantasy running back in PPR league. So, down year, but it's only because people drafted him as a top 3 back. Again, I said he could have top 10 fantasy upside in PPR leagues this year. If he can do that on a down year, why can't he do that this year with the opportunity that's going to be given to him? So I would still go Duke Johnson. I'm still on my David Johnson pick from yesterday.
Fancy?
I find it so funny that this one popcorn headline that Nyheim Hines can have one game of 10 catches just took this, completely made it into a volcano of other topics. And it's one of us said this at some point. This is why everyone has to be careful about everything they read. This doesn't mean we bump up Nyheim Hines a bunch of rounds. Ooh, coach said he could have 10 catches in a game, one game. Come on, you can't fully read into that. And if anything, as everybody else mentioned, the depth, it's totally different. And something that I continue to say on these live streams, I watched a lot of the Texans because I had a lot of pie bets on the line involving Texans receivers. So with that, a lot of my focus for a good amount of the year was on Houston. I'm telling you, the best Deshaun Watson when it came to his connection with Hopkins was short passes. And that's why, with no more Hopkins, I am loving both Duke Johnson and David Johnson, especially David Johnson, again, because of the way I draft. Get him in the 4th round. Even if he slips a little bit more than that, I still have at least 2 running backs in front of him, and I feel like that it's worth the risk at that point.
Jen, Adam, any final thoughts here?
I think the problem that people are running into this year is there's this heavy focus on running backs in the first 3 to 4 rounds, which is fine in best ball because you can't go to the waiver wire. But I think it's a big mistake that a lot of people are going to ruin their drafts or redraft. It happened last year. I heard the same thing about Devonta Freeman. Oh, got to get these running backs early. Devonta Freeman's a value in round 4. He sucked. He was an aging running back that had a lot of injuries. So, you don't have to get 3 running backs in the first 4 rounds. And I feel like a lot of people are preaching that right now, and it's going to sink a lot of teams. Yeah, there's value at wide receiver. You know what? Take that value in rounds 3, 4, and 5. If everyone's going to let those receivers fall and you know their money in the bank or they're good value, take them. You only, to me, in a redraft league where you only start a max of 2 running backs, if you can get one good one in the first round, and I've employed this strategy the last couple of years, and it's worked. Don't reach on these running backs if you don't like them. Like, I feel like people are talking themselves into it. Oh, well, this guy is pretty good and he has the workload. You know, these aging running backs do not perform well. And I think a lot of people are going to reach just to say, oh, I need these running backs early. You're going to be able to find them. All you need to do is hit on one later from round 7 on. You just need to hit on one. And last year was a bad example because the waiver wire was very thin. We didn't really see a lot of running backs emerge off the waiver wire. That won't be the case this year. There'll be more injuries and there'll be players that come off the waiver wire. So I just think we need to stop with, oh, we got to have 3 running backs in the first 4 rounds because you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. You're not going to hit on all of them. And I heard the same thing last year, and there were a lot of running backs that were landmines.
Jen?
Well, I do think that it is important, if you can get bell cow running backs, to get them early because there are so few of them. But at the point that you're worried about how they're dividing targets, then don't pull the trigger early. But the point of this survey was basically to point out how ridiculous it is that suddenly we take some piece of information that's tiny and blow it up really huge, exactly as Justin said, and just say, guys, just look at the facts. Like, you know, path to playing time is what's important. I don't think you should really draft either of these guys unless it's like way at the end of your draft or you're in a 15-team league or anything. But the point is, let's get reasonable about what's going on. We're all in quarantine, reading things, wanting to make stories out of things and, you know, plant our flag in the sand about something. But just like calm down, look at the path to playing time and make a smart choice.
Seems reasonable enough. All right. Well, let's look at any other pass catching backs, because I did ask you guys also what other pass catching backs are you interested in, and who do you're looking around the league. Fensty, anybody out there catch your eye? Or are you just are you Googling what a pass catching running back is right now?
No, I was just making sure that I like the amount of receptions that he got. I'm looking someone late, and I think Howard, you and I actually talked about him for a little bit on Alarm After Hours on Monday. And that's Tevin Coleman, just someone that I can get very late, someone that I'm not paying really starter's price for if I'm getting him in the 8th or 9th round. So that's someone that if he fails because there's too many running backs or he's not as involved, it's not as much of a loss for me.
Tevin Coleman. John, you?
I'm going to go to James White. I mean, you have a young quarterback. What? I mean, come on. He's only in the 8th round right now. PPR, he is like the epitome of pass-catching running backs, basically, when we think PPR. Yeah, Eckler emerged, a ton last year as well. Christian McCaffrey, obviously, in a world of his own. But James White in the 8th round, I mean, I think this offense is going to be centered around a game-managed Jarrett Stidham, and what's better than having James White out of the backfield to catch those drop-offs and screens from him?
Anybody not on the Patriots, that's who's better. Jen, how about you?
I think Duke Jackson actually would be probably my choice if it's a late pass-catching running back. Sorry, Howard. But another person that's a little bit interesting to me is now J.D. McKissick, who might have that third down opportunity over with the Redskins behind Geis and Peterson. And, Peterson's older too. I mean, he's been pretty sturdy, but you never know. Some opportunity could pop up there, and Geis is a little bit injury prone. So he's a possibility.
No faith in Antonio Gibson, the rookie?
Well, he could be playing wide receiver. He could be playing running back. Who knows what he's going to do? I did draft him in my dynasty draft.
Adam, how about you? Pass catching running back you're interested in?
Matt Breida. I mean, Jordan Howard, we know doesn't catch the football much. They brought him in. Obviously, durability has been a big issue for him, but he does have the ability to play hurt. So, he could rack up a lot of receptions in that Miami offense.
All right. So there you go. A little pass catching running back talk there. We will table that discussion. We will move on to another hot button topic, at least for Jen yesterday. She was super spicy about it. And Adam, this is something that you jumped in on. So again, here we go. The two most argumentative people on this show right now, Jen and Adam, underrated veteran wide receivers. Adam, you were wearing a Marvin Jones jersey on the radio yesterday. We all saw it. You were planting your flag in him. Jen, you were talking about wanting to talk other underrated veteran wide receivers. So let's have at it here. Marvin Jones is listen. I agree with what Adam said yesterday on the show. That being that Marvin Jones put up numbers pretty strong numbers, especially if you're looking at where Kenny Golladay goes in drafts versus where Marvin Jones does. And if you look at the numbers and the matchups, whenever Kenny Golladay had a really strong cornerback on him, and I mean a high-rated cornerback, that was the game that Marvin Jones excelled. And that was actually, it was a really nice way to kind of pivot around for DFS. But let's talk about some underrated veteran wideouts who we're interested in. So I'll start with Adam here, since Marvin Jones is your boy and you're not allowed to mention him right now. Give me somebody else.
Honestly, I went through this. There's not a lot. I mean, this is a young receiver league right now. We're seeing it in rounds 3 to 5. A lot of good ascending young wide receivers. But this guy is kind of considered a veteran. Rashad Perriman. I mean, he still hasn't moved, man. I don't understand it. Like, you can get this guy in the 12th, 13th, 14th round. What is the loss there? And if you combine his numbers over the last 2 years, he's put up really good numbers on a per-play basis. This is a guy who was taken in the first round by the Ravens. He had the size, the speed, and it took him some time. He had the injury in his rookie year. Now, I know he's changing teams again, but there's not much competition there. He should get what Robbie Anderson got last year, which was about 90 targets. He can get 100, 110, especially if this offense can operate smoothly. Yeah, they drafted Mims, but lack of off-season activities for rookie is going to hurt him. Crowder's the guy in the slot. You could even pinpoint him as another guy that's an underrated veteran receiver. But Rashad Perriman, man, because he's gotten it done now 2 years in a row. I know it took an injury last year to Godwin and Evans for him to explode, but he had a great finish. He helped people win fantasy championships, and I thought his ADP might move up. It's not. So Rashad Perriman for me.
Yeah, he keeps falling in drafts. I keep snatching him up. It drives me nuts as a Jets fan too, to know that there is value to be had there. Fency, you were championing Jamison Crowder yesterday. You got zero love from anybody about Jamison Crowder.
No, I said
we like Jamison Crowder.
I'm talking about Crowder. Yesterday's show.
Yeah,
Justin brought up Crowder. Nobody championed it. Nobody was.
Go back and listen on demand.
You go back and listen to it.
There was a large sentiment of positivity around in Crowder's selection because nobody went at Fency for that pick.
Is that what it is? So nobody yelled it. Nobody yelled at Fency and told him it was a stupid pick. So therefore, that was us shoveling praise onto him.
Yeah, it's a seal
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Fency, you got somebody else? Or you want to just champion Jamison Crowder again?
No, I won't do that. I'll give you something else. And this is someone who I'm starting to worry if we bring up too much, but I love him so much that he's going to move up in ADPs, especially by August. Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, talk about lack of competition in New Orleans. I mean, yeah, you can't guard Mike, but still, Mike's going to get a whole lot of coverage. And if I could get Sanders where I'm getting him, which has been in the 9th and 10th round, that's been a steal for me. And I love it. Adam, you were talking about before the value of receivers. I mean, a receiver being there that late, like Sanders, makes me want to go running back a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I disagree on this one. I love Emmanuel Sanders as a player, great route runner, but he's aging, and that number 2 spot in the Saints has never really garnished a lot of value. Michael Thomas is going to get, 1,000 targets. Alvin Kamara is going to get a ton of targets out of the backfield. He's had 81 receptions in 3 consecutive years. They're still going to go to Jared Cook a little bit. He's not going to be a guy you can rely on. Like, I don't think you can plug him in the lineup every week.
He's better than Traquan Smith.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, from an NFL perspective, sure.
Ginn.
But yeah, but fantasy-wise, I don't know. I don't want to draft Sanders. I think it's name value right now. I just don't think there's enough value in that number 2 spot in the Saints for him to be productive every week.
All right. Jen, how about you? Veteran wideout, underrated.
I hope this one counts for our qualification. I'm going to say Robert Woods. I feel like he doesn't get enough love. He's 28 years old, and he only had 2 touchdowns last year, but he's led the team in targets for 2 years in a row. And now with no Brandon Cook, Sean McVay obviously loves him. I feel like Cooper Kupp is the one everyone likes to focus on. I think Robert Woods is someone that's falling and you're able to get later in drafts, and he should be going earlier, much like Allen Robinson. Those 2 are 2 guys that I think are going later than they should.
I saw a look from Adam Ronis. Did everybody else see that look from Adam Ronis when she said Robert Woods?
It's like, I do think he's a little undervalued, but he's still going in the 5th round. So, like,
okay, I have another option. That's why I said I wasn't sure if it counted. I have another option if that one doesn't count.
I do agree, though, he's not going where he should. He deserves more love. Like, In a lot of drafts, Cooper Kupp goes before him, and I think you can make a strong case for taking Woods. It's just, I don't know. Are we counting a 5th-round pick as someone? Can we count it? I mean, I'm okay with it. What's the qualifications for this?
I'll tell you what. Let's hear who her other name is first, and then we'll see if we can just count Robert Woods.
All right.
Okay, my other name is, you're not gonna like this, Randall Cobb, who last year with the Cowboys had actually a great season, 80 targets, 800 yards, a few touchdowns. And now he's moving to Houston, where he has the same kind of really great quarterback, even a better quarterback, if you will, who's going to throw a lot. And he's behind a really injured wide receiving core, so he could get opportunities. So he's someone that you could get late as your wide receiver 4 that could end up giving you much better value.
All right, I'll allow it. I'll allow that. We'll push Robert Woods aside.
Robert Woods off. Okay.
All right, now let's hear about Julian Edelman. John, it's your turn.
It's not Julian Edelman. I was going to say, Mohamed Sanu is. No. If I'm being realistic here for a second,
N'Keal Harry.
Yeah. N'Keal Harry, very, very underrated. Now, I'm actually looking at Golden Tate here. If you're talking about injury-prone players, Evan Ingram's had a hard time staying healthy. Sterling Shepard's had, 8 concussions at this point now. And Golden Tate last year, even though he started the year off suspended, still finished 49 catches, 676 yards, and 6 touchdowns for the Giants. I think there's opportunity for him, and I'm getting him in the 12th, 13th round right now, ADP-wise. So for me, I think Golden Tate kind of fits that bill as a veteran receiver, maybe going a little under the radar, and opportunity to produce there with Danny Dimes.
Master
the name you love.
What?
Danny Dimes' name that I know you love so much.
Yeah, I love those nicknames. In any event. All right, so there you go. Some underrated value on some wide receivers. We'll table that discussion. Unless anybody's got something other they want to criticize somebody else's pick. No? Anyone? Fancy, come on, you're bubbling over there.
No, I was just saying, my pick already got criticized, but I'll just say this. I'm on the side with John as well. Again, late round value you get from Golden Tate. He was actually one of the others on my list in case one of mine was sniped by any of the other panelists. I'll be your old.
All right, well, we got a little game here. Everybody knows what marry, kill. That old game. Well, Jen wanted to play a new game here. Start one, bench one, cut one.
Can I just say, I'm sorry that apparently I've programmed this live stream. I didn't realize that I was choosing all the time. I was just suggesting things, and I feel like, again, like I've.
No, it's all good. We know you're very bossy.
Sorry.
Listen, the creative vessel here, there's only so much water in the fountain. I'm going to admit that. So when I turn to you guys and I say, what do you want to talk about? Give me something that you're passionate about. Like when you say something, I take that to heart. I say, okay, this is something that we should talk about because they want to talk about. I could sit here and dictate topics till we're blue in the face, but I would probably be, me steamrolling everybody saying how wrong you are. Yes, Justin, you have a question. Do you need to go to the bathroom, Justin?
No. So my question is, and you had already released what the topics are going to be for Table That Discussion, and I thought of one right after. Would you have been cool with if I had brought up first concert you're most looking forward to going to post-quarantine?
The answer is always Fish, Justin. It's always Fish.
Listen, I figured you would like it, so there you go. I win.
No, Justin, that was a stupid idea.
I wouldn't have had an answer to it, so I would have just made,
John's like, what's music? I don't understand. It's not sports? What is this that you're talking about? It does not compute.
No, Howard, I'll be honest. On Family Times, John and Pemba admitted we were going to do a topic on best albums of all time. And he goes, the only thing I ever owned was the WWE Anthology.
Facts. I didn't own CDs, really. Like,
as soon as he said that, Howard, just like your look, I just thought in my mind, Battleship sunk.
Yeah.
When I put out the ad for a managing editor and I said I needed a well-rounded person, I was talking about personality, John. Personality.
Had I known a pandemic was going to expose me so abruptly, I wouldn't have,
It
I
really
can talk
has.
about literally any sport you want, but after that, I'm sorry, I'm out of it. I watch dart leagues for crying out loud, but I can't figure out, can't figure out anything else.
But you could cook buffalo balls.
It's true. I can cook for you guys. So next time.
Yeah, thanks for feeding us here, John. Really appreciate that.
Well, if we ever get some, Fantasy Alarm company outing, I'll bring the catering.
Dude,
There
we're
you
in
go.
quarantine.
Yeah, isn't eventually?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't live in fear, Justin. Can't
Yeah,
live in
Justin, come on.
Justin's not leaving his house till 2025.
That's very true.
I'm probably not leaving mine till 2025 either, so I'm
out
okay
as soon
with
as I can. I'm telling you that
Me
right
too.
now.
I'm out.
And nobody's allowed to come over. Sorry, that's not happening.
Okay.
Anyway, the name of the game is start one, bench one, cut one. I didn't put any parameters on this. You could mix sports. You could just stick with one sport. You can do whatever you want. This doesn't even have to be about sports. You have carte blanche. So whatever you want to do. John and Pemba, I'm going to start with you because I at least know it's going to be 3 different athletes.
I was going to say, no surprise here, sticking it with the sports. And this is kind of a debate that I recently had, just with some friends of mine, and it pertains to the ADPs we're seeing around the quarterback position. Obviously, we know Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, you have 1 and 2, but for like that next tier of guys in terms of ADP, we're seeing Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, and Kyler Murray are all sort of like, and Dak Prescott, all sort of like in that same tier. So my question is, like, if you're picking between Wilson, Murray, and Prescott, because I don't really consider Watson to be in that same tier as them right now, which one are you starting, benching, or cutting?
All right, let's go around the room here. Ladies first.
Okay, so we're talking Prescott, Wilson,
Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray.
Murray. Okay, I would start Prescott, bench Wilson, cut Murray.
All right, Justin.
I'm going to do what Jen did as well. Start Prescott, bench Wilson, cut Murray.
Adam.
All right, we'll start Prescott, bench Murray, cut Wilson, which is tough to say because I do like Russell Wilson, but I've been saying this for years. The Seahawks just don't unleash him enough. It's amazing the numbers he's put up over the years with the lack of pass attempts. And I just think Kyler Murray, his second year in the league, adding DeAndre Hopkins, his rushing ability, I think he's going to put a better fantasy performance than Wilson. Not to say I don't like Wilson. And I would take I've actually, I usually wait on quarterbacks, but I've been picking on the ends. There's one draft where I took Dak to begin, I think, round 7. I just doing a draft now where I took Russell Wilson to start round 8. So I'm willing to take these guys because I know if I pass on them that there's going to be a huge quarterback run. And I've seen it. I've been in some drafts where people have taken 3 quarterbacks now. So I would take any of them, but it would be start Dak, bench Kyler, and cut Wilson because that's how I have them ranked 3, 4, 5.
All right. So, John, you started this one here. What's the correct answer?
Yeah, I mean, I had Dak number 1 as well, just, coming off last year, given the fact that they added to that offense as well. But Kyler was my number 2 to bench as well because, again, we're trying to, determine the value that he's going to have now that they added a guy like DeAndre Hopkins to be that, true number 1 receiver for him. Plus, as we mentioned, before the rushing yard. So for me, I had it the way Adam had it. I had Dak, Kyler, and cutting Russ Wilson. Nothing, again, against Russell Wilson, but I think we could be seeing a breakout season out of Kyler Murray this year.
All right. So, Adam, you won that round. Congratulations. You get 722 points. Mazel tov. I don't know what you can do with them. You can probably do the exact same thing with those as you can do with like crowns on DK.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Enjoy. It's your turn, Adam. What do you got? Start one, bench one, cut one. Give us our options.
All right, I got 3 pitchers going in a similar range of ADP. It's Hyun-Jin Ryu, Kyle Hendricks, and Robbie Ray.
Ooh.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Jen doesn't like that at all. So let's start with her.
Start Hyun-Jin Ryu, bench Robbie Ray, and cut Kyle Hendricks.
Wow. Interesting there. Interesting. Cut the most consistent pitcher out of them all, huh? All right. John?
I'm going to start Ray for the strikeout upside. I'll go Ryu, and I'm gonna cut Hendricks too because he just bores me.
Same.
Just bores you. All right. And Fancy, you've got that look on your face like it's an 80s Apple computer ad and it's a bunch of monkeys smacking around a computer trying to figure out what it is. You're up.
I am going to start Ryu, and then I'm going to cut Hendricks.
You're going to start Ryu, you're going to cut Hendricks, and you're going to bench Robbie Ray.
Yep.
So you're going the exact same way as everybody else, is what you're saying.
No, I'm not going every way the way
Yeah.
everyone else is going.
Yeah, that's
Well, it's the
exactly
right
what John.
answer.
And,
It's okay.
That's exactly what John and Jen did.
Oh, I thought
I started
Jen
Ray.
went the
She
other
started
way.
Ryu.
You should have just.
Oh, yeah,
should
you
go.
started right. That's right. I started.
Oh, okay. There you go. So no verbal retweet from you, Fensty. Good job, Adam. What's the answer?
You guys got it completely wrong. And this is another example of why people are allured by strikeouts and they don't look at the other categories enough. The guy to start is Kyle Hendricks. He's very undervalued. Now, it comes down to roster construction because we know he's not going to give you a lot of Ks. So if you're able to get like 2 guys early on that give you a ton of Ks, Kyle Hendricks fits in perfectly. I mean, the guy's had an ERA in the mid-3s the last few years. His whip is very low. Yeah, he doesn't throw hard. He's got a great changeup. He doesn't allow hard contact. He's a very reliable, safe pitcher, but people don't like him because he throws 85, 86. Go look at the numbers. They're very good. Hyun-Jin Ryu is the bench. He's been a very good pitcher. Health has been an issue for him. Now he goes to the American League, some tougher offenses. Obviously, we knew he was going to regress after that great first half. So, he's the bench. And the cut is Robbie Ray, who just, again, I'm not picking on you, John, but you said it. Oh, I want the strikeouts. He doesn't do anything else. The guy can't go past the 5th inning. Yeah, he's going to have the occasional game where he strikes out 12. He kills your whip. The guy allows so much hard contact. The only way Robbie Ray works is if you take 2 pitches early with great whip. So you got more in an auction. You get an ace like a DeGrom or a Cole, then maybe you get a Clevenger. That allows you to absorb the poor whip of Robbie Ray. But he is a whip killer, and I think that's a category people don't look at enough. And I think we just saw it here. Kyle Hendricks, excellent whip. No one wants them. Robbie Ray kills your whip, but his strikeouts, people take him.
I mean, if we're talking about saying, like you said, auction, but 5x5 categories, yeah, if you're going to give up a little bit of a whip to get an elite strikeout pitcher like Ray, he had 235 strikeouts last year. His whip was only 1.3. I mean, you can easily
That's terrible.
Yeah, but you can get better pitchers earlier in the draft, given where you're drafting Robbie Ray for the most part. I mean, to me, I just feel like the number of strikeouts that he's giving you puts him at a upper tier than where, a category like whip is. So, I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. The more consistent player across the board is going to be Hendricks. But if I'm looking at a single elite category, Ray is that guy for me.
Can I please not roster any of them? Because I'd prefer not to roster any of them. That's my choice.
Really?
Well, they're all going in a similar range. That's why I picked them.
Not targets. Yeah.
I think if there's one thing you could say about Hyun-Jin Ryu is he's going to be very, very lucky if Toronto does not allow home games over there, because him going from LA to Toronto, I think is going to be ugly. All right, so quarterbacks from John, starting pitchers from Adam Ronis. All right, Monkey Man, what do you got for us there? Come on, Fensty. Serve it up. Start one, bench one, cut one. Who are we talking about?
All right, we're going to talk about planning to build our fantasy basketball teams. Your first round pick, your first overall pick. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo, LeBron James, and James Harden. Now, Harden, I'll give you guys this. Harden will give you all the scoring in the world. The world is his oyster in Houston. But there are others on this as well in LeBron and Giannis that will help out a lot still in the rebounds and assist departments.
Well, so you're talking down one of your picks already. You're trying to push him towards the bench or cut.
I'm just saying that James Harden is scoring everything. Is it not? Is it fantasy, or we have to think from the reality standpoint?
This is for fantasy, you said, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So, Adam, do you want to start off with?
I don't know. I'm waiting for the host to.
I just told you to start off, Adam.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I'll go with Giannis 1. I mean, Giannis has put up ridiculous per game numbers, and he's only averaged 30 minutes per game this year. It's insane. So for next year, you can't expect the Bucks to dominate again. He gets hurt there, but his per game numbers are just ridiculous. LeBron has surprised me this year. I was a little worried about him in fantasy, and he's obviously been great, leads the NBA in assists. So hopefully that's a question you ask on Alarm After Hours. But I know you're not going to give a layup like that. You got to take percentages. It's close because Harden just fills up the stat sheet, and LeBron's going to be a year older. But I think I'd go LeBron 2, Harden 3. So, yeah, I'm going to start Giannis, bench LeBron, cut Harden.
All right. John, how about you?
Yeah, Giannis is the clear number one. I'm still going to go at Harden number 2, though. Again, he still fills up the stat sheet. Yeah, he's going to kill you with your field goal percentage there, but still leading the NBA in points per game at 34.4. He's giving you rebounds, assists, steals, and that's still with Russell Westbrook there. We weren't sure how they were going to play together, and Harden still is balling out with them. So I'm going to go Giannis. I'm going to go Harden. I'm going to cut LBJ, even though he is having a good year, as Adam pointed out. I'm still, fantasy-wise, I'm still leaning the beard there, number 2.
All right,
Okay.
Jen, it's up to you.
I'm going to start Giannis Antetokounmpo because that name is so cool. And I want to say I have a guy named Giannis on my team. And then I'm going to bench James Harden because he's just all about the beard. And plus he's from Houston. So I got to keep him. He's got to be available for me. And then I'm going to have to go ahead and cut LeBron James because the dude's just kind of old and this is a dynasty league. How did I do?
It was quite good. I don't know how you're not the senior NBA writer on our show. We might have to change that. You're sitting here with 3 strong NBA guys, and none of them came up with the rationale that you did. So
Thank you.
I'll give it up to you on that one. Jen, this was your idea. This was your game.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
So
what do you got
guys,
for us?
You guys took this way more seriously than I did. I was thinking of this more of like a fun game, and you guys got all stat heavy and all that. So I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. Okay, these people don't even play the same position, so you have to start, bench, or cut Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, or Michael Thomas.
Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Michael Thomas. All right. So I got 2 QBs and a wide receiver.
Yep.
Fensty.
This one's a very easy one. We're cutting Baker Mayfield over and over and over again. There you go, Jen. I knew you'd like that.
It's an agenda-driven question right there by Jen. That's
100%.
I'm gonna start Michael Thomas. You can't guard Mike. Guy single-handedly won me championships last year. So we will put Michael Thomas there and benching Lamar Jackson.
All right, Adam.
We'll start Lamar Jackson. I mean, you're getting a running back with a quarterback. It's one thing. We're not really taking price tag. This is not a draft, right? So
Yep.
I don't have to worry about taking Lamar Jackson in the first, second round. Even if he doesn't run as much as last year, and there's going to be regression. He had a 9% touchdown percentage, but still, there could be closer games. There were a lot of blowouts where he sat out the fourth quarter. So I'm going to start Lamar Jackson. I'll bench Michael Thomas. As great as he is, I can find other receivers, and I will cut Baker.
All right, John.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same mold there with Adam. Jackson just kind of separates himself really from the rest of the group there. So I'd still go him, bench Thomas, and of course we're cutting Baker. I hate him as well. He's terrible. So it all works.
So the purpose of this exercise was to show you guys that I'm not mean. And so I'm going to tell you what the answers are. Number 1 is you start Lamar Jackson, and this is why. He revealed this week that his pregame meal is shrimp Alfredo. He eats it all the time, and that carbs help power his performance. That means that somewhere deep inside him, he is half Italian. In addition to that, he uses yoga and Pilates to get game ready. So I think I really want to hang out with Lamar Jackson. So he is starting in my life. Number 2, I'm benching Baker Mayfield because I'm not that mean, and I'm going to give him another shot. And he invited his friends down to Texas to practice. So maybe he'll be okay, but he's just right here. And number 3, I'm cutting Michael Thomas because I don't know what that crap was with him and Devontae Parker, but he needs to take the high road here. And he has all the good stats and all that. Let Devontae Parker answer a simple question and be proud of himself and back away. You don't need to take it as a personal affront. So I don't want you in my life, Michael Thomas. You are cut.
Yeah, see, I'm going to do a little host
Say goodbye to your
interjection here and say,
championships, by the way.
But all of you guys are my friends because you cut Baker Mayfield, and I'm so glad you got the message.
all right, well, I'm just going to go on just a little host interjection here and say that, you know what? Devontae Parker needs to just shut up anyway. Dude, I don't care if he was taking a swipe, if he wasn't taking a swipe. Devontae Parker's a piece of crap. Had one good season with Ryan Fitzpatrick last year on a team that no defense took seriously. Now you're going to talk to me that with Ryan Fitzpatrick again this year, that Devontae Parker isn't going to be targeted by cornerbacks, isn't going to be heavily covered, get that press man coverage, jack up his weak ass on the line. I'm sorry, but Devontae Parker should just stay quiet and not answer any trivial, stupid questions that are sitting there on the internet. The dude needs to focus. I can't stand him. I think he's going to be vastly overrated this year. And yeah, listen, you know what? If Michael Thomas is a little hypersensitive, that's what happens. You know what? When you're sitting there, you're the big man on top. You're the number one guy. Everybody's trying to knock you off. You have to slap these little punks down every step of the way.
You have to be confident in that you're the best and not stoop to their level. I don't like it. If you're the best, you just shut up and let everybody know you're the best. You don't need to be worrying about little trolls. If you're worried about that, you have a problem.
I don't think he's worried. I think he's just sitting there with his ass in quarantine right now with nothing better to do. Nothing better to do. Sorry.
Well, at least both didn't get arrested yet.
They will, though. They will. Right?
They will.
All right. You got to arrest one, incarcerate another, and give the death penalty to the third. Who's it going to be? DeAndre Baker, Quentin Dunbar, Cody Latimer. Go. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
We're all like.
All right. Here's a question that I'm actually, I talked privately with GM Jim Bowden about this early this morning here, and then we're going to talk about it on the show today. But I was kind of curious as to some thoughts. I'm not going to skip over John Heyman's tweets and whether or not MLB is going to lose massive amounts of fans because, yeah, listen, any kind of labor dispute when you have like this, it's going to be an absolute disaster. What I do want to know is what the hell's up with the return of Bartolo Colon? Let's face it, guys. Anybody who's got a physique that looks like a hybrid of me and John Impemba, right, has no business being in professional sports whatsoever. John, it's you and me, right? Like we're sitting there looking at.
Is like 200 pounds heavier than me. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? What are you? Aren't you? You're like 425, aren't you?
I know the camera adds some weight, however, but that's hurtful. You know?
How many cameras are on you right now?
It's 5.
All right. See, I had to deflect a little bit from me because Adam came at me like that yesterday. But nevertheless.
It clearly bothered you because you made us open by saying nice things. So if it was that bad, I apologize. We joke like that. I thought we're good, but apparently got a little sensitive about it.
Oh, I was fine.
Meanwhile, you make fun of yourself all the time. You're like...
Bro, spaghetti squash. I'm telling you. That's going to help you out so much. I'm telling you, trust in Just, and that'll come right off.
Shrimp Alfredo and Pilates.
It doesn't matter. You saw Howard, the tweet he sent over the weekend with all that barbecued food that's terrible for you. And as I said, Howard's living till 90. So it doesn't matter. Let him eat what he wants. He's good.
Bartolo Colon. Do we really need to bring this guy back? And... Like, is it going to be a safety issue? Like, could you imagine a comebacker to the mound for Bartolo Colon? Like, here's the question, actually. It really comes down to, does Bartolo Colon get a chance to sign with the Mets, have a roster spot so that he can go out with the Mets? Or in this shortened season that we are expecting to see, does he need to just walk away? Does nobody need to sign him because you're just better off giving that roster spot to a younger, hungrier kid who's willing to play? Adam, you're the resident Mets. You and Justin are the resident Mets fans, so we'll start with the two of you. You can go first. Bartolo Colon, do you want to bring him back to the Mets and let him retire there?
No, I don't. He hasn't been effective the last couple years we saw him out. He was pitching well for a while. Yeah, those years with the Mets, he was decent, like ERA in the low 4s. But, last time we saw him with Texas, a 5.78 ERA. The year before, 6.48. Doesn't get strikeouts, which is terrible in today's game. Yeah, he doesn't walk anyone, but a lot of contact. So I think the quarantine was the worst thing that happened to Colon because if you remember, he has 2 families. So he's probably getting a lot of heat right now. Probably the other family he's not with, all over him. And that's why he wants to go back on the baseball field. So we got to get this quarantine over with. He wouldn't have these thoughts.
So you're saying he's quarantined with the wrong family, and that's why he wants to go play baseball?
You know, like, wait a second. I
made the wrong choice.
I mean, he can't win either way. He couldn't win either way.
Fensty, give him a roster spot. Let him retire.
Personally, I really want to let him do this because he had some very magical moments as a member of the New York Mets. He had a home run in Petco Park. He also did a behind-the-back throw out to first, which I don't know how he was able to move his body like that. I can't even do that, and I weigh 250 pounds less than him. So personally, I would love to give him that roster spot. Professionally, though, from what Adam said, you can't do it because the younger guys who are fighting for those spots every single day, someone else deserves that spot up and coming.
Jen?
Well, I just want you guys to know that I looked it up, and Bartolo Colon weighs 285 pounds, and
listed.
Weight. Well, that's it's just like, you know, I'm 5'5", everyone. So yeah, and he's going to be 47 years old. I don't think that Big Sexy should come back, but it is pretty entertaining that, you know, if I were him and I knew I only had to play 82 games and Noah Syndergaard was down, I would absolutely give it a shot. So I got to respect him for saying it. But no, they shouldn't bring him back.
John?
No, I mean, there's no reason for him to come back. If you want to, like, sign him to a one-day contract to retire, sure, but there's no reason you should be putting him on the baseball field unless you're in, like, a dire emergency. You know, there's nobody left anywhere to call up or sign, and you need a pitcher for a spot starter or something. But to put him on your roster to open the year with him, to put him in your rotation even, no, there's no reason for him.
All right, so everybody says no to Big Bad Bartolo Colon. Guys throws 90% fastballs. That's it. That's all you get from him. All right, well, then I'll tell you what. Then we will finish today's. We started on a positive note. We will finish on a positive note. I don't know if anybody out there saw the article over at fantasyalarm.com from Andrew Cooper talking about his aunt, who is a huge Rams fan. She is a type 1 diabetic. She is high risk for COVID. She had her birthday. Her husband passed away a couple of years ago. She was all alone, all by herself. And Coop and some family members helped facilitate Jared Goff sending her birthday message, which was absolutely fantastic. But then when Coop went to contact the people who put Goff into all of this, he just called him to thank him. And, and just said, this meant the world to her, blah, 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 this and that. What did Jared Goff do? He took an autographed Rams jersey, a regular Rams jersey, mind you, not one of the new uniforms there, and personally autographed it for her and sent it over the way. So, when we talk, we can sit here and we can talk about NFL players stuck in quarantine and just playing around with guns too much right now. We don't focus enough on the positive stories out there. And so when Coop brought that to my attention, I definitely want a Fantasy Alarm to be a part of that. So we all said something nice about each other. Now we're going to end today's show with your best feel-good sports story that you've seen recently here in quarantine. I will take by a show of hands, who wants to go first? Chickens. John and Pemba, there it is. First hand up.
All right, so this is a story that I saw and read the end of last week, I think it was, but Mookie Betts went back to his hometown there in Nashville, popped into a Kroger's and paid for everybody's groceries, and then went and bought the staff of that grocery store a pizza party, paid for everything. So, it's good to see players not just like take care of the cities that they're also into, but also, not forget where they came from as well and go back to his hometown and took care of the people there as well.
All right, Adam, how about you?
Milwaukee Bucks guard Pat Connaughton is going to host a radiothon tomorrow in Milwaukee to raise funds for COVID-19 relief. He's going to be on from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. I mean, for a guy who doesn't do radio to do 11 hours, there's a lot of people in this industry who can't even do 2 hours well. So he's going to be interviewing athletes, auctioning stuff off, and raising money for COVID-19 relief.
All right, beautiful. Jen, give us a good feel-good story.
Okay, I don't know if I missed the instructions on this, but my feel-good story was that Antonio Gandy Golden has recovered from coronavirus. He had it during the draft, and he isolated himself for 2 weeks, and now he's feeling great, and he's ready to get back on the field. So just good news, positive that there are people out there beating this, and that there is a way, if we are careful, that we might be able to get back to normalcy.
Justin Fensterman.
It's great to see one of my favorite players in the NBA, Tobias Harris, one of the hardest workers, really starting to embrace the city of Philadelphia. Didn't know if he wanted to be there in the city as much as getting paid, but what he's done here is definitely proven otherwise, and that's paying mortgages for over 10 families in the Philadelphia area on the Sixers, so he's helping out there. Also working with Chick-fil-A as well to help healthcare workers in the Philadelphia area. Jen, I know you're a big fan of Chick-fil-A, so I thought of you when I read that. He's also helping out donating books to children's libraries. It's just a guy that's now involved in multiple facets in his new-ish city, and that's going to make him one of the more beloved athletes in Philly for years to come.
Yeah, and Tobias Harris, I saw him play in high school. He's from Long Island, so and he did have a reputation of being a good guy.
You see that? There it is, right? We can end it on a positive note. We can show each other a little bit of love, and we can show that athletes are actually not all a bunch of moronic thugs who have nothing better to do than menace the rest of society. That's going to do it for us here at Table That Discussion. As always, big thank you to my panel here. Always a great job. You guys always bringing the heat, always bringing the humor as well. Big, what? Nope, just me again. Big thank you to Matt Sells, our producer extraordinaire, always doing a great job. Go read Matt Sells' playbook and check out all his work for NASCAR. That's right. Coming up in a very short amount of time is the Toyota 500, and Matt's killing it with his coverage. So that's going to do it for us here today at Table That Discussion. Thanks for tuning in to Fantasy Alarm TV. I'm Howard Bender. We'll catch you next time.